Hey, everybody, it's Friday, and this is Locked On Sports Minnesota. I'm Ron Johnson, your host. We're going to have fun today. This is the Roundtable, and it's Friday, so you know what that means. It's Friday, yeah. It's Saturday, Sunday, what? In the comments, let me know if you know what song that's from, because, I have kids, so I'm stuck listening to it. But it's one of those things where it's just been remade. And I love to start the show off with that. But I'm Ron Johnson. We got Sam Ekstrom joining us. We got Reggie Wilson from Care 11. We don't know where his dog is at, but I'm pretty sure it's somewhere being a ghost in the house. And we got Julia Daniels from Care 11 with the hair done. That's how important you guys are, viewers. Those watching on YouTube, Julia said, we're going live today. I'm going to get my hair did. And so, again, this is the Roundtable. This is Locked On Sports Minnesota. And there's a lot going on in Minnesota sports. There's a lot going on in national sports. Pat Beverly, he's a Minnesota connection. I don't know if you guys saw it. He just basically threw a ball at a fan's face. I don't know why, but he's Pat Beverly. He also cried when they won the playing game. So can we expect anything different from Pat Beverly? The Minnesota Vikings, they're starting to get these players signed. Guys are starting to come to town. It's starting to feel like footballs again. But the Minnesota Timberwolves, they have a chance to go to the Western Conference Finals, but they have a giant in front of them. So let's get locked in on these topics, people. What are we talking about today, Sam?
It's pretty simple. The Wolves will beat the Nuggets if ... We'll fill in the blank for you.
And are the Wolves starting a championship window? What complications could there be for that? We're talking about that.
I was going to say, what are you doing, Ron? The Twins, are they playing well or are they playing atrocious teams? We'll discuss all of that.
I was going to say, for the championship window thing, we got a couple teams, like the Twins, they're winning. They won 10 games. Is this their championship window? The Vikings have a new QB. What does that championship window look like? But, of course, we need to talk about the Vikings roster, though. Is this roster better now? Ignoring the quarterback, we're not talking Cousins versus J.J. McCarthy and Sam Darnold, but we could kind of talk about that. So feel free to throw that in there. Also in the chat, feel free to let us know what you think about this Vikings roster. Is it better this year than it was last year? Even if you were to say Kirk Cousins with J.J. McCarthy and Sam Darnold together, you can put both quarterbacks in a sandwich and then put them up against Kirk Cousins because they're both on the roster. The Falcons aren't looking too good right now with their situation as well. A lot of consternation within the Falcons nation. But again, which roster is better? We'll talk about that and much more coming up on the show next. But we're going to let you guys know today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. This is what I'm going to say. That app, it's addicting. I have to turn my phone off at night just so I don't stay up all night trying to steal people's money. And I love a good Monopoly game. I play various Monopoly games online on the Nintendo Switch as well, because you can play live against randoms and just make them land on your properties. I'm not going to tell you my favorite property, but feel free to try to figure it out. But I have to admit, being competitive is a fun thing to do. You love to win, and I'm a big fan of Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on a classic Monopoly game, so you and your friends can play together. Just download Monopoly Go now, free on the App Store or Google Play. Again, seriously, when you play it, just set some limits. Don't get addicted like me because you will never go to sleep. But again, I'm Ron Johnson. This is Locked On Sports Minnesota, and this is the Friday Roundtable. Let's kick it off. Sam, take it away.
All right, Wolves Nuggets begin 6 p.m. on Saturday. We are one sleep away from the Western Conference semifinals. We don't know what the situation with Chris Finch is going to be. That's okay. Mike Inori is in control. But the Wolves are in Denver, adjusting to that altitude, ready to kick off a best of 7. How will they win this series? Well, I'm going to build off a point that I made on the Minnesota basketball party on this network on Wednesday, the benches. If the Wolves bench performs like it did in the first series, and if the Nuggets bench performs like it did in the first series, the Timberwolves will win this series. I've got some bench numbers to crunch for you. Timberwolves bench against the Suns averaged 27 points per game, shot 35%. And that was without, frankly, Naz Reid playing his best. I think they're going to get a better Naz Reid, and those numbers are only going to get better. The Nuggets shot 31% from their bench. They averaged 12 points a game and had the fewest bench minutes of anybody in the playoffs. I think the Wolves are deeper. I think it's the same thing as the Suns series. The Nuggets have Christian Brown and Reggie Jackson and Justin Holiday and Peyton Watson. And the Wolves are countering that with Slow-Mo and Nikhil and Nas. I like the Wolves bench a lot. So I think when they are into those second units, I think that's a big Wolves advantage, particularly if Jokic is off the floor. Wolves can feast in those moments of the game, and that's going to be the difference in this series.
Yeah, Reggie, when you think about that, the bench is where Sam's going with this. What is your take?
I think they have to keep Christian Brown in check, man, because that dude is no, seriously though. He does feel like the icing on the cake, like when things are not going well for the other team, and then Christian Brown just comes in and puts up like 3 consecutive shots. They feel backbreaking. I remember it last year from the Wolves series, last year in the series against the Lakers, and he did it a little bit in the series against the Lakers this year as well. He's tough. He can be sneaky tough. But no, I think the Wolves win and it's tough to say like, oh, if Anthony Edwards keeps up his production, because he had a great series against the Wolves last year in the playoffs and it didn't matter. I mean, they won 1 game, but it didn't matter overall. I think if they continue the defensive intensity that they had in round 1, where I made the joke, like if Jokic is taking a breather and he's going over to the water cooler to get Gatorade and he turns around and there's Rudy Gobert, like, what you doing? Where you going? You about to take a drink? Not on my watch. Like if they keep that same level of intensity up, like I think they'll have a really strong shot to do something. And also, just like Cat and Ant in that presser last week, Cat has to stop fouling. If Cat is available for most of that series and he doesn't get into early foul trouble, I think the Wolves are going to be in good shape.
Well, when you look at the Wolves Nuggets, it's pretty an even matchup. The Nuggets finished 57-25. The Wolves finished 56-26. So, I mean, they were pretty much dead on. Conference, Timberwolves had a better conference record. Home versus away. Nuggets take the edge there. Away, Timberwolves take the edge there. And their last 10, both were 6-4. So this is probably one of the most evenly matched teams of all these next coming up matchups of the semis. So, Julia, your thoughts on the Wolves win if?
Yeah, I think this is anybody's series. I think they split their regular season series this year, but couldn't agree more that the depth is the superpower of this Timberwolves team. I was at practice this week, and you watch Nas spend, they get done with everything, and then he's out there shooting threes constantly. And he just, the entire time, because, if you know anything about how the Wolves work when you go to a media availability, you're not really sure what time, but you're usually there for a little bit just because they're trying to gather players and this, that, and the other. The entire time we're there, Nas does not stop shooting threes the entire time that we're sitting out there on the court. So that's a good sign for Timberwolves fans. I would also say, discipline is going to have to be a big thing too, because Denver doesn't make mistakes. The Wolves have to be disciplined in this series. I would also say it'll be interesting because, like Reggie said last year, Ant was playing lights out in this series with Denver. It'll be interesting because he matched up so well with Jamal Murray, but I think he's playing better now than he was last year in this series. So that'll be something to watch too, to see how those two match up here. But Wolves win if the bench is the number one thing, if the bench plays like they did, because they just wear teams down, because they can keep the energy all the way through the third quarter, through the fourth quarter, that kind of thing. So that would be I would agree with Sam there. Bench has to play like they have.
Yeah, I'm going to take a different route. I'm going to just make it really, really simple. Anthony Edwards has to be the best player on the court at all times. I don't care if Jokic is out there. I don't care if Jamal Murray is out there. I really don't care if whoever, like Michael Jordan, could come back. Whoever is out there, Anthony Edwards has to make sure he is seen in every moment as the guy. But here's the key to this one. And I thought about this the other night when I was sitting here thinking about Jordan, because I remember growing up a Pistons fan, watching Jordan get his butt kicked by the Pistons night in and night out every time he tried to beat them to move on. And eventually eventually he figured out that they're going to foul me. They're going to foul me. They're going to punch me in the face. They're going to hit me every time I come through the lane. And so Jordan started to work on his jumper better. He started to work on his mid-range game. He started to work on the difference in Jordan and Anthony Edwards is Anthony Edwards figured out sooner, I need to be able to Euro step these guys. I need to be able to do this. I can't always just dunk on people. I'm not going to get free layups all the time. Anthony Edwards has to be able to understand his bag, as the kids would say, has to be plethoric. It has to have a plethora of moves in this series the entire time because and we've seen this, Jamal Murray, he hands it off to Jokic. Jokic sets the body pick. He hands it back off to Murray. Murray dribbles all through 7 people, comes back to the top, gives it back to Jokic, runs around again, gives it back to Murray, hits a shot. Everybody's like, oh my God, it's the best offense ever seen. In that moment, Anthony Edwards needs to get it. Dribble, crossover, step back, just hit a simple jumper and shut the crowd up. That's where he has to be the combatant of that offense that they run. He has to be that calm voice, whether it's him and Rudy Gobert, and he's going to throw the oop to him, or he's going to take it himself with a floater, or him and Cat. And like Julia said, if Naz Reid is open because they're going to collapse, kick it out. Naz Reid has to hit shots, but it has to be Anthony Edwards' show from whistle to buzzer. He cannot let that crowd in Denver get involved in these first 2 games. If he can keep them sitting on their hands, if they can steal a game, I think it's their series to have. But Anthony Edwards has to be the best. The one thing, again, about Jordan versus Anthony Edwards, too, is Michael Jordan, when he knew he was the guy, he took over, but he didn't force it. He allowed Pippen to do what he can do. He allowed Horace Grant to have big plays. He allowed Rodman to be Rodman sometimes and say, look, if this dude is just banging people, let's at least get it down there, let him do something stupid and get the crowd hype. That's where Anthony Edwards needs to be the facilitator. Him and Mike Conley need to be just on their game the entire game.
I'm sorry, Ryan. Wait, we're not about to let that slide.
What?
Plethoric. What is that?
It's a plethora, but it's a different version of plethora. It has to be plethoric. I don't know. I have to Google if that's actually a word.
Okay. All right. You got it.
For those in the chat, please do, if you have time, to Google plethora, if plethoric, a plethora of moves. As soon as I said it, I was like, oh, I don't know if that's a word, but I like it, though. There's Alexis. Hello, Alexis. That's not a ghost, people. That is Reggie's wife. Don't be worried. Reggie's not going to get killed. But if he does die, hey, this is going to go viral. If somehow a ghost steals his soul, we will go viral. And then we will play See at the Crossroads because we're going to miss our Uncle Reggie. And then But for those who have never seen the Crossroads video, Julia's probably too young. She wasn't even born yet. I don't think.
I'm okay.
See you at the crossroads. And I'm going to miss everybody. So jumping back on track. I like to get off track sometimes, people. I'm sorry. I can't help it. When you look at the Wolves, again, we talked about this. This is their chance to go to the Western Conference Finals, but they have to go through a juggernaut, and that juggernaut is named Jokic and Jamal Murray. And, I mean, they got a bunch of other weapons. We know that Aaron Gordon can become an irritant within the game and, always gets the right, extra pass or always gets the long rebound and gets a dunk and gets the crowd hype. Reggie, tell us what your thoughts are. Is this the championship window or is this it? Because as a lot of people say, I forgot who I was just talking to, or I heard somebody bring this up, but they won a championship early in their career, and then it took them 14 or 13 years to get back. I can't remember which NBA player, but it was somebody still playing now in the playoffs now that talked about they got there as a rookie or something or a second-year guy, and they hadn't been back since. Maybe it was Mike Conley. I can't remember who it was, but Reggie, take it away.
Yeah, so this is tough because this team probably is at the best that we are going to see it now. And so they'll have Anthony Edwards. So as long as you have, and you would like to think that they'll continue to have a championship window. But here's the thing. That second apron is coming. That Cat new money is kicking in. Rudy's a max player. Nas is getting paid. Jaden is a max player. There's a lot of money to go around. And, we were sitting in the sports office, Julia and I were talking about how, Glenn Taylor is now balked at selling the Wolves because it came out that A-Rod and Lori were going to slash the payroll. And if you slash the payroll, you would think that maybe Cat may not be there. Maybe one of the other players may not be there. And you got Conley at the money that he's at as well, and he's not getting any younger. And I just think that this is probably the highest that they can get with the group that's assembled, because after that second apron his next year and all that, like, how much is Glenn Taylor going to want to spend into the luxury tax? How much? Because I mean, that when that second apron is coming, like, you're talking 30 plus million, maybe over the tax. And that's a lot of Skrilla. Like, that's a lot of money. And so you would hope that, Glenn would do whatever it takes to keep this group together, which is why, the word is that he's balking at going through with the sale, because he doesn't want to blow the team up, because this is like the biggest championship type window that they've had since the KG days.
He just wants a ring.
Well, yeah, of course. And so, but it's like, how much are you willing to do for it? Like, because it's going to cost you. This roster is not cheap. And, Tim Connolly has done a great job assembling. I think he was getting a lot of flack after last year. Like, oh man, did he make a mistake? The league is going small and he's going big. Like, that doesn't make any sense. But now he looks like a genius, because this big lineup is getting after these teams. They put it on the Suns. And they have this team has a chance to do something special this year if they can keep it up. But I just don't know if you can keep this team in place. And that's why I say I'm not really sure about the championship window, because everybody wants to say, like, oh, this is Ant's team, he's the alpha. But like, Cat scored 28 points in that closeout game. Like, he's no slouch. Like, you kind of need all these players to make things work. And if they can't spin into the luxury tax with that second apron coming, like, that's going to be a tough thing to try to keep this roster together for years to come.
Julia, what are your thoughts? Championship window. And when you think about championship window, though, too, like, is it like a core group of guys, or do you think like it's just Anthony Edwards, Michael Jordan-esque? Because that was what the Bulls ran 3 up. Jordan left, comes back, they win 3 again. So could Anthony Edwards be truly the Jordan where you could put him with 3 other guys like Kukoc and whoever, and Pippen and so on and so forth, and then he still gets 3 more?
I think maybe people don't forget this, but, we've barely scratched the surface of what Anthony Edwards is capable of doing. He's so young. People are already talking about him kind of stepping into a leadership role. He's like 22 years old, right? Mm-hmm. He's just a young guy. If the Wolves, and I think they will, keep him around, yeah, potentially they can build teams around him. He's going to mature more, I would hope, moving forward. But he's one of those people that you can build a franchise around. I honestly believe, especially with how he's playing now at his age. Yeah, I think that it's something, but I think Reggie also has a great point in saying, like, it's not about the money, but it is about the money, right? You have to be willing to pay if you want to keep a group like this around. And I think also, Tim Connolly said when the Rudy Gobert thing happened, which was like my second week on the job, I think, right, Reggie, when all of that went down and it was just madness. But Tim Connolly said in that presser, I remember, this move will make or break my entire career. And he banked on it and didn't necessarily work out last year, but he gave it some time. And now we're seeing that kind of come to fruition. I think Tim Connolly has a great mind. You keep him around. Let's also give Chris Finch a little bit of credit too. You keep some of those pieces here. Yeah, you could start to build some kind of championship, I would think. We'll see how this postseason plays out too. But I think Anthony Edwards is the key to success of this franchise. And they barely tapped into the potential that he has. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, he is young, and that's what people have to remember is at this stage in Jordan's career, he still was getting his butt kicked by some of those older guys, where Anthony Edwards doesn't seem to be bothered by, I mean, we just saw him get rid of one of his idols, Kevin Durant. So Sam, championship window, or is this the best chance they have this year?
Yeah, Reggie brings up the point about the ownership squabble, which I think is everything. Because if you look at the contracts, the Wolves have their top 7 guys for next year, and then the year after that, assuming they pick up their player options. Like they could have their whole starting 5, Naz Reid and Nickeil Alexander-Walker on this team through 2026. But that's only if you're willing to spend in the luxury tax. Now, if you want a case for why Glenn Taylor is a better man to own the team than A-Rod and Laurie, I'm going to show you a number for those listening. The number on my phone is $540 million. That's the amount of dollars that Glenn Taylor has collected from A-Rod and Laurie in the previous 2 years with the payments they made, 36% of team ownership.
Does he have to give that back though?
Well, I don't know how the arbitration process works, but Glenn has said that they will retain that ownership. So Glenn has pocketed $540 million, and he's 82. What is he going to spend it on other than keeping this core together? So I think that Glenn is like liquidated enough now that he can afford to pay the tax on this team and extend this championship window three years, this year, next year, and the following year with your top 7 guys together. You're going to have to build out the end of the bench, certainly. But if you've got that core, that's a pretty good run in the NBA to keep a group together. And the contracts are laid out in a way that it could work.
I never thought about that. So Sam, but this is my point. So if he doesn't give them the ownership, like if he's like, you're not taking over, do they have to remain as minority owners, or like, because I never thought about that, because like, are they going to remain as minority owners, or does he just have to give them the $540 million back and say you're out?
I don't believe that's the way it works. I think they could sell, and I'm not sure about this, they could probably sell their stake at a profit if they wanted to, but Glenn has the money. Glenn keeps that $540 million, I believe.
So they just have a percentage of the team right now. They were say it again, Julia.
It's like when you buy something,
right? So, but because he's not wanting to give them the rest of the ownership stake to be 100% owners, majority owners of the team.
Like would it void? Are you saying like
correct? Yeah, like because he breached the contract as well. So I'm wondering, does that void the fact that they were whatever a percentage owners of the team, and the agreement said within a year, I think it was, or something, or that window, they were going to give him the rest of the money. And now allegedly it hasn't hit escrow, and they're saying they made the payments. He's saying they didn't. I'm wondering if he just literally, because he's balking, says, nope, I'm not giving you full ownership of the team. Can they say, well, you got to give us our money back because we're just out and you need to go find new partners?
I think that A-Rod and Laurie would be smart to just sell. If they wanted to make money back, they would
sell their stake in the team,
sell their stake, and probably profit. I think they would probably get 2x what, I don't know if it has doubled, but they would make a lot of profit if they
because I'm guessing if it's $3 billion, originally it was $1.5 billion. They've put up $500 million theoretically. They could technically sell it because that same third is what they've put in. The third now is actually $1 billion because they're saying it's worth $3 billion. So they could go sell their stake for $1 billion, and Glenn Taylor has to approve of who they sell their stake to, but now they can double their money and walk away. Honestly, I get it. Like, you do want to own the team, because if you buy in now at $1.5 billion, you're already doubling your money because it's worth $3 billion. If you come to an agreement and say, look, we'll go to $2.5 billion or we'll go to $2 billion, I think you still come out winning. But if you double your money and you get $500 million back and you sold your stake, I still think that's a win too. So either way, these dudes is playing with money that, speaking of money, monopoly money. It feels like monopoly money. And with that said, I'm going to go quick before we jump into our Monopoly Money read, because this is what these owners have right now, is Monopoly Money. I'm just going to say, with all that said, I think this is the championship window as far as they do have one, but I think this still is their best chance. The reason I say that is because OKC to me doesn't seem like a super strong contender. The Nuggets are beatable. Jamal Murray's calf is not right, even though Reggie called it calf meat. I wasn't comfortable with that, but we're going to let Reggie use that word.
You gotta just never calf meat together.
It never sounds right to me. Just like I don't mind the word moist, but I know some people hate the word moist. Like, oh, that cake is moist, and I know some people hate that. Like, don't say that. So, like, calf meat just sounded so weird to me. But Jamal Murray's calf, like, if he He doesn't have to travel. So that's a good thing. He's getting treatment. I'm pretty sure right now he's sitting up on a table watching Sports Center or he's probably watching our show, trying to figure out what we're saying about the Nuggets, because we're going to give him all the intel of the Timberwolves. And if you think about that with Jamal Murray and then all the other teams in the East right now just seem dysfunctional, I guess. Like the 76ers are out. The Knicks, to me, and maybe it's just the Knicks and the team, I just don't feel like they're a contender. The Pacers seem pretty beatable as well. Like, I just don't feel like there's any team left other than the Nuggets that you're like, oh, I don't know if we can win a championship this year. If they beat the Nuggets, I feel like all signs point to, and we know Shea Alexander, or Shea, is it Gilgeous Alexander?
Gilgeous Alexander, yep.
Yeah. I always get him because I know Naw is Alexander Walker, so that always throws me off. But Shea Gilgeous Alexander is a dog. He's a beast. You got Chet, they're good. You got the pedophile. They're allowing him to still play somehow. And so when you think about, come on now, we know he was dating a 17-year-old, a 16-year-old. Stop playing. But when you think about that team, they're beatable. And so I just feel like this is the best chance right now, because we don't know what next year is going to look like. Like we don't know what teams are going to become super teams. We don't know what teams are going to join together. So I would say there's a window, but we got to talk about the Vikings. We got to talk about what their window looks like. Is this roster the best roster they've had? Is not last year, but the year before last, is that a better roster? We'll talk about all that and much more, but we have to take a word from our sponsors first.
All right, time out from the show. Let me tell you about Monopoly Go. They have so many great features that I have to inform you about. You can either team up with your friends for time tournaments. You can work together with your buddies, build up your Monopoly boards, win together, unlock awesome prizes, or you can bank heist and steal all your buddies' money, and you can taunt them with hilarious emojis and smash their buildings and heist their vaults. So you can prioritize teamwork or rivalry. There's a lot of options. There's a lot of features at Monopoly Go. It's new and exciting every day, constantly changing tournaments and challenges. There's unique mini games where you can dig for treasure. You can use the robot pachinko machine. Yes, robot pachinko. There's always new timed events that help you win big with massive multipliers or rent frenzies. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go, so get off the bench. Go download it now for free on Google Play or the App Store. Game on.
Well, it's time to talk about this QB situation in Minnesota, and I'll kind of kick this one off. So when you think about their roster, when you think about everything going on with the Vikings, I'm going to be really quick in this. I personally think last year's defense was really good. I think this year's defense, and I'm just going defense, is better. And the reason is because of Van Ginkel, Grenard, and Dallas Turner. Those three guys give you true outside linebacker edge rushers compared to Danielle Hunter and DJ Wonnum. Danielle Hunter is one of the best defensive ends in the game of football with his hand in the ground. He is not a stand-up. We said this, I think, every week. When Danielle Hunter puts his hand in the ground, he's pretty much unstoppable. When he has to stand up and show a look and try to make it look like he might drop, or when he actually drops, he's very ineffective. And same with DJ Wonnum. I think he was similar. He needed to have his hand in the ground. When you think about these rushers now that are truly stand-up outside linebackers, you can watch all the Dallas Turner, Alabama film. 9 times out of 10, he's standing up and moving. And that's because that's the defense that Alabama ran. He can put his hand in the ground if he needs to and go into 4-point like a lot of outside linebackers, but he is like Zadarius Smith where he's comfortable standing up. The Vikings with Zadarius Smith, and we remember this, effective. Why? Because that's what he did. He could stand up and get to the quarterback. You had Blake Cashman, who I think, in my opinion, is probably on a better trajectory than Hicks. Hicks was a little bit like he wasn't the same like speed and explosiveness of Eric Kendricks and Anthony Barr, where Blake Cashman, you kind of get that. So defensively alone, you add in a cornerback. You're going to get a healthier Caleb Evans back. You have Byron Murphy Jr. You're going to get an older kid out of Clemson. I always forget his name. I don't know why I keep forgetting his name. Booth. Hopefully you can get him back and going and figure out what he can do. But Mekhi Blackman showed us he can be a starter in this league. He just needs a little bit more time to learn. And then we got Josh Metellus, you got Harrison Smith and Cam Bynum. So I think there, offensively, you still got the weapons, and you add a better running back now. Aaron Jones is better than Alexander Madison. It's just fact. It's not like an opinion. It's statistically, you've seen it. It's better. JJ McCarthy, and that's where it's different. That's why I said leave the quarterbacks out. But I'm going to go to you, Julie, with that. Like, what are your thoughts? Is this team better?
Yeah, I would agree. You lose a difference maker in Danielle Hunter, but they've filled the holes with more people, if that makes sense. You kind of try and balance it out by adding more guys and this.
Oh, you need 3 guys to balance it out. Like,
yeah, exactly.
They did that.
Danielle, and then one other, and then you kind of. I also think it'll be interesting to see just Brian Flores in his second year here too, and seeing some of these veteran guys who figured out the controlled chaos that we talked about all last season, and see how that carries over into this year. New guys obviously coming in, but you'll have guys like Josh Metellus and Byron Murphy Jr. and all these guys that have seen what he wants, and now they maybe understand it a little more headed in. I also think, is it Shaq Griffin that they added to the cornerback room too?
Yep.
So
veteran slot nickel.
Veteran, because last year it was like a baby group except for Byron Murphy Jr. And then when he got hurt, things really looked bad in that room. So that'll be nice. It was. That's how it was. That was a huge conversation in the offseason, was like, it's just Byron Murphy Jr. and he's not even that old either. So adding some veteran presence there too, I think will be good for this defense. I think you're right in saying, keep the quarterback conversation out. We don't really know how that will play out just yet. It looks hopeful, but offensively the weapons look about the same. But defensively, I think, I would argue, you obviously are going to miss a guy like Danielle Hunter, but I think they've done a good job in filling those holes, and I think it could work out really well for the Vikings this year.
Yeah, and I think we're going to have a chance this year to figure it out with this quarterback thing, because like what I'm hearing, I talked to a guy in Atlanta who works with the Falcons, and they feel like the NFL is going to try to prime time some of these Kirk Cousins matchups with whoever they play that could match up. Now, again, is he going to be back? And that's why I think the Falcons Vikings is going to be later, probably Sunday Night Football, because they don't think Kirk's going to be back in the first 4 weeks. That's the other reason why they took a quarterback. But Sam, when you look at this roster, better last year or better this year?
Yeah, I'm in total agreement with you, Ron, about the defense. I think if you just count up the upgrades, they've upgraded at their second edge spot from Wanham/Davenport now to Van Ginkel. Plus they have Turner to give them better depth in case someone gets hurt. So the edge, which is a very important position, got better. I'm willing to say that Bullard is relatively awash with Hunter, maybe a very slight step down, but not substantial. I think Cashman's an upgrade over Hicks. So I think that defense got deeper and more talented in the starting 11. Offense is where I think it's, and again, this is kind of a non-quarterback conversation. Obviously, J.J. McCarthy is not a healthy Kirk Cousins at this stage. They do upgrade at running back. You could argue that they've downgraded at wide receiver 3 with losing KJ Osborne. They've downgraded at left guard by not re-signing Dalton Reisner, and tight end too. You can't forget that TJ Hawkinson's going to miss time this year with that knee injury. So the offense may not be quite as deep as it was last season, but they still have the most important pieces intact. You've got 2 elite wide receivers. You've got 2 elite tackles. And that's the skeleton you need to have a successful offense, I think. So I would say it's a yes. This is a better roster sans quarterback. And then now it's up to whether you can get something out of Sam Darnold / J.J. McCarthy and whether they can thrive having a strong roster around them.
Reggie, and we kind of already hit on the defense. I want you to take it to the offensive side. Sam kind of went that direction already. If you look at this offense, again, take the quarterbacks out. Where do you see better this year or last year? What do you see? And you can still do a little defense as well, but I kind of want to see your thoughts on that with the offense, because I know Sam went there.
Yeah, I think my answer was going to be like, this is an election year. It's too early to tell. It's too early to tell. I think I'm reserving judgment just for the time being, just because there are a lot of variables. Who knows how long Hawk is going to be out before he comes back from that? I mean, that was a pretty devastating knee injury. And they lose KJ Osborne in the offense. And I know sometimes it felt like he was kind of like the odd man out. And he really didn't get a whole lot of touches that maybe he wanted to. But, Kevin O'Connell has been preaching up Jalen Naylor for, I feel like, years now. Is he going to step up and be that wide receiver 3 in the slot and reach the potential that this coaching staff feels like he can? Last year was pretty much a wash with the injury that he had. And so you look at that. The line is, you hope that the line will just continue to be solid. You got 2 bookend tackles. That interior is always a question. Is Bradbury going to be, fine? Is Ingram going to continue to take continual steps forward in his development? And so you don't think about quarterback, but I do think that, at the running back position, as you said, Ron, they did get better. You got Aaron Jones, and then, heck of a backup running back behind him. I think, they'll probably platoon it a little bit, showing with how much he showed last year, taking over snaps from Alexander Madison last year. And so I'm interested to see how that goes. The one thing, just to hit on defense a little bit, I was expecting them to do a little bit more in terms of a splash on the back end of the defense. I know Julia mentioned they signed Shaq, and that's great, but I don't think he was someone that people were like, oh yeah, like bona fide starter for them. Like, I think there were question marks. Mekhi Blackman, he graded out well, PFF wise, but like, I think anybody with 2 eyes, you saw, last year he had some struggles in coverage, and Byron Murphy was hurt a little bit down the stretch, and you would hope that he continues to ascend in his progression. But you think of a Caleb Evans, and you think of Andrew Booth Jr., and now they've added a rookie in Kyrie Jackson, and you're like, okay, not really sure what he's going to be either. I think there are some question marks on the back end of that defense, but it may be kind of moot if you got Grenard, Turner, and Van Ginkel rushing the passer, and the opposing quarterback is not able to really get into anything because he's laying on his back. So maybe that is a situation that helps them, but I just still think it's a little too early to tell.
Yeah, when you look at this roster, again, they got a lot of things to figure out. They got a lot of the things to do, and I think, Reggie, I like that one. It's too early to tell. Sometimes it looks great on paper. I think the best thing about this Vikings roster right now is there's not a lot of high expectations, because when there's high expectations, I think the players push it. I think the ownership is worried. I think the fans get nervous. Like, why aren't we winning right now? No, everybody's kind of saying this is going to be a 2 or 3 year process to kind of get everything going. And the fact that Brian Flores, like, I know his kids play in an organization that I work with because I keep seeing his name pop up on our order forms. He's laying down roots, like in these sports. He's signing these kids up, and he's buying, warm-ups. You don't spend $200 on warm-ups if you feel like you're going to leave. No, you might. But when you think about this team, like, I think it is a 2 or 3 year process to try to get to championship level, and that's why you draft a quarterback. That's why you have a veteran in Sam Darnold. But we got to talk about the Twins. 10 straight games. I'm not going to lie. When Byron Buxton limped off and the umpire kind of said, man, get off the field. Hurry up. Get your butt off the field. I was like, okay, here we go again. Like, this is Minnesota sports for you. It's always going to be somebody getting hurt. But 10 straight, Julia. What's going on?
Yeah, I think the best thing the Twins can do right now is just not listen to what we have to say. Baseball's a mental game, and I think that a 10-game win streak was something that their confidence needed. That being said, us that live in the real world know it was against 2 of the worst teams in baseball right now. The pitching's atrocious. I will say the summer sausage thing, thoroughly entertaining. I don't know if you saw this, Ron, but they have a summer sausage that Kyle, did you hear about this?
So I saw the video. I think you posted it. Like, I saw the tweet because of you. Like, it was like the Rocco's face explaining the sausage. So yeah. I saw your tweet. And again, calf meat and sausage, like, those are just like, I just don't understand. I know everybody's going with it, and I get it. It's just weird. But yeah, explain this. What is the salt? Like, what is this? Because I really didn't understand it, and I was scared to Google it. So
Kyle Farmer, he had some kind of brand deal or something. He had summer sausage in the dugout or in the clubhouse somewhere, and Popkins, their batting coach, he decided they're not hitting well, so everyone's going to tap this sausage before oh God, I had to do this on television too.
Sounds like a Kardashian show right now.
Before they go up to hit, before they get in the on deck circle, and before they
like they were on Apollo or something.
Yeah. So
wait,
the summer
so
sausage,
it's not a raw sausage though, right? It's in the pack still.
It's in the pack, but it's not been refrigerated since he brought it out. 7
that's
games
nasty.
ago.
Don't cut into that and try to eat that.
Don't open the bag
for a while.
No.
So so there's a pack of sausage that's not been refrigerated.
No. So like if
that's so gross.
If that thing somehow gets opened, the entire Twins roster, like, it's done.
They should just open it once they lose.
Have to back
and get a new one.
But ever since then, they've been hitting better than anyone else in the league. That being said, I mean, Rocco talked about, let's give our hitters some credit, because they're hitting really well, and against some decent pitching, not really. But I do think baseball's a mental game. So as long as the Twins aren't listening to what we have to say, and they're just buying into all of the things all their superstitious stuff and whatnot, it could work out well for them. Maybe they got their swagger back and they're headed for better things. But honestly, we'll find out today when they play Boston.
I'm going to keep my jokes on Twitter. I got a good one, but I'm going to keep it on Twitter. I will be tweeting this right after the show. Sam, please, we have to tweet out that clip from today of Julie explaining the summer sausage. Please put that on Twitter so that I can quote tweet my joke.
Viral content.
Because I just feel like the one guy, and we all know from The Office, it's definitely an office, like the Office type of joke right there. When she was explaining the summer sausage, I could see what's the dude's name? Steve Carell. I could see him totally doing that. Like, it literally, that was an Office moment there.
That's what she said.
Definitely. Yeah. Like, I could see him, and then the HR lady just looking like, Sam, the Twins 10 in a row.
Since the sausage surfaced in this 10-game winning streak, the Twins are slugging by far the best in baseball. It's not even close. They're slugging at .543 during this 10-game streak. Dodgers are second, way down at .485. I mean, this offense is making up for all of its terribleness. This was a bottom 3 offense, maybe bottom 1. They might have been the worst offense in baseball for about 3 weeks. And now they're the best. And it's all because of the sausage. And I know they've hung like 16 runs in a game, 11 runs in a game, 10 runs yesterday. They're scoring 7.6 per game during this 10-game streak. So they're hitting really well, but they're also pitching well too. They're getting like solid starts. Bailey Ober's been pitching better. Bullpen continues to be lights out. So it's all like coming together for this team. But now it'll be interesting to see what they do against real teams. Like Boston is a good, not great opponent coming into Target's field tonight. Let's see what they can do. Longest winning streak in 16 years for the Twins. I mean, even though they're playing terrible teams, most bad teams still can win 1 out of 3, and the Twins have thus far avoided that.
Reggie.
Yeah, so
do you have sausage to talk about too?
No, over the last 10 games, in that 10-game winning streak, they have scored 76 runs. And I always use that number just being playful. Like I said, Josh McCown played in the NFL for 76 years. Like, that's just always the arbitrary number. But like, no, they literally have scored 76 runs over this 10-game win streak. And look, they are playing terrible teams. Angels, not good. White Sox might be historically not good this season. And so, like, I get that part. But I think one thing that is encouraging about, if you're a Twins fan, about watching what they've done, there have been several games where they have been down in the late innings, and you're like, oh, man, especially against the White Sox, you're like, oh, man, I already know what's going to happen. Down 2-3 runs, and they win by 2-3 runs. And so I think one thing that you have to be encouraged about if you're a Twins fan is those things build confidence, whether they're playing against a bad team or not. And if they lock in and then it kind of parlays into some of these good teams that they're about to start playing, like the Red Sox tonight, I think that is a very encouraging sign that maybe they get some confidence from all these wins and the way that they've had to win over some of these games in that 10-game streak.
Yeah, well, you guys have hit it all on the head. No pun intended. And so there's not much I could say. Yeah, sorry, Reggie. There's not much I can say to top it off. But now it all makes sense because I saw the Rocco Baldelli tweet that Julia did, and I was super confused. I never came back to it because I was like, okay, I don't even know what's going on right now. But now it makes total sense. So it's just a superstition that we know. I always joked about Major League and the Cleveland Indians trying to take the clothes off the mannequin or whatever, the little mannequin or whatever when they were winning. Have you ever seen Major League, Julia? By the way, I know you're young. You're muted.
No.
You've never seen the movie Major League?
No.
Okay. Your next road trip, you got to download that on Netflix. You got to watch that one. It's a good, especially baseball-ish. Like it's something you can.
I had
bring
a
up.
nickel for every movie that Ron has told me to watch, Julia, I would be so rich. And I haven't watched any of them yet, except for the one with Nick Cannon. I did watch that one.
Which one was that?
Love Don't Cost a Thing.
That one. Yes.
Oh, okay.
The full review.
Yes.
It's a classic.
Sam, I want you to break that dance out at the next Locked On party.
The next time if you get me on the dance floor at some point in my life, I will demonstrate.
Well, we got to make sure we talk about the best athletes in town: Anthony Edwards, Justin Jefferson, or who? But we got to do that after a word from our sponsors.
You can have some serious fun right now at FanDuel with this Nuggets-Wolves series. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, NHL as well, MLB, but I'm looking at Wolves-Nuggets props. You can bet the Wolves to sweep at plus 1,600. You can guess the correct finish of the series. So you can go Wolves in 5, Wolves in 6, Wolves in 7. And you can, spread your money around and try to win big with some juicy prices. And you might have some free money to play with because the promotion right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to put on the spreads, the money lines, the futures, the player props, and so much more. FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
Well, really quick before we get out of here, we're going to have some fun with this one. Best young athlete in town: Anthony Edwards, Justin Jefferson, or start with you, Sam.
Oh, this is hard. I would have said Jefferson probably consistently for the last 3 years, and now I think it's starting to shift because Jefferson is still 1 of 11 on his team, and he's not the quarterback. He's not the most important position. Anthony Edwards is 1 of 5. He can probably influence the game a little more than anyone on a football field, and he might be one of the best in the league. I think I'm almost shifting to Edwards here, which is insane, but I might almost be there depending on the way these playoffs play out.
Julia.
Yep, gotta agree with Sam, and for all the same reasons. You can't deny it right now.
So that's 2 for Anthony Edwards. Reggie.
I'm going to go Justin Jefferson just because he has been electrifying from the time that he's gotten into the league. And even when he missed all those games last year, still went over 1,000 yards. The only thing that I think Ant has the edge, though, playoffs. The one time that Justin Jefferson has been in the playoffs, gotten lost, Ant has led the Wolves to a series win.
I took it a different way. I thought actually like athlete. I say because Anthony Edwards said he can play every sport, but I would say receivers are the best basketball players. So between football, basketball, I'm going to give the edge to Justin Jefferson. But yeah, right, Reggie's right. Playoff wise and just town captivating the town. Got to go with Anthony Edwards. But I'm Ron Johnson. That's Sam Ekstrom, Reggie Wilson, and Julia Daniels, both from Care 11. And this has been the Roundtable on Locked On Sports Minnesota. And remember, 24/7 on YouTube, people, you can get us anytime. Just make sure you like, download, share, tell a friend that we're here. And have a great weekend, people.